Breaking now in Toronto, we have just learned at least 9 people are dead, 16 others injured after a van jumped the curb and plowed into a crowd.
15 north, we have lots of people waiting on the sidewalk here. We're going to assist.
He just went on the sidewalk. He just started hitting everybody, man. He hit every single person on the sidewalk. Anybody in his way, he would hit.
Police identifying the driver as 25-year-old Alek Minassian.
Are you suffering from any illnesses?
Yes, I'm a murdering piece of shit.
7 minutes. It's the time it takes to grab a coffee and find a park bench, or pause to catch up with a neighbor, or pay a lunch tab and head out into a sunny day. In 7 minutes on April 23, 2018, a man driving a rented cargo van struck more than 24 pedestrians on a North Toronto sidewalk and left everyone asking, why? That one broken human could destroy so many lives is a difficult thing to accept. As Toronto struggled to make sense of what happened, Alek Minassian, the 25-year-old killer, has been the subject of much speculation. Some people called him a poster boy for toxic masculinity, others, a disturbed soul battling inner demons, and some even writing him off as just a random psychopath. But who was Alek Minassian really? Was he a devoted follower of the violent incel ideology, the same one he referenced in a chilling Facebook post hours before the van attack? Or a lost and impressionable mind, pulled into the dark depths of online hate forums? Or was he something far more complex and far more unsettling? As a child, Alek Minassian dreamed of flying. He wanted to be a pilot, but even then, his parents quietly doubted he'd ever get off the ground. Minassian wasn't like other kids. He was quiet, hypersensitive, and often the target of bullying. He grew up in a spacious 2-story home on Elmsley Drive in Richmond Hill, living with his parents and older brother, Haig. His father, Vahe, had immigrated from Armenia and worked as a software developer for Rodgers. His mother, Sona, came from Iran and held a job at the IT firm, Compugen. Born on November 3, 1992, Minassian attended 16th Avenue Public School, just blocks from his house. But early signs suggested something was off. He had special needs, and throughout elementary school, he struggled to connect. He often threw temper tantrums in class and isolated himself from the other kids. One former classmate recalled attending an after-school program with him when they were both around 10. Minassian would hoard toys in a corner, screaming if anyone came near. Even then, it was clear something deeper was going on. By the time Alek Minassian reached Thornley Secondary School, he had a name for the struggles that had followed him for years: Asperger's syndrome. The condition is an autism spectrum disorder. The characteristics vary from person to person, but the most common signs include difficulty understanding social situations, trouble making eye contact, and the ability to focus intently on certain tasks, which can lead to fixation and obsession. This can make someone with Asperger's a brilliant employee and creative thinker. However, they may have difficulty making friends or dating. Minassian was placed in learning strategies classes, where he finally found a small circle of friends who understood him. Among them, he played the role of the class clown. According to former classmates, he'd crack jokes in weird voices and poke fun at himself, referring to his condition as Asperger's, in a bid for laughs. Lunchtime in the learning strategies room was his safe haven. They'd trade stories about video games, geek out over their favorite characters, and talk, sometimes awkwardly, about girls they liked. But Minassian never chimed in on those conversations. Of all his mischief, the one antic that infuriated his peers the most was his apparent fear of girls. Evan Mead, his former classmate, remembers the first time he was paired up with one of their female classmates for an assignment in their learning strategies class. It was the last time he ever worked with her. He said nothing to this girl, only cowering, shivering, and whimpering in her presence like a toddler. The girl was beside herself. One of the teachers angrily called him out on his embarrassing charade. After class, another classmate sneered at him and called him sexist. Alek didn't care. Outside that small circle, high school was far less forgiving. Minassian would fidget and twitch, tap his head, hug his arms around his body, meow like a cat, sometimes spit on himself and repeat the phrase, "I'm afraid of girls." His physical tics and occasional growling made him an easy target for bullies. Some students cruelly dubbed him Chewbacca, mocking him in the halls, poking at him until he meowed or even tried to bite in defense. Others treated him like a sideshow, daring him to approach girls as a joke. When he did, and they turned away or laughed, he'd fold into himself, arms clenched tightly, whispering, "I don't like girls." Some classmates believed he didn't even realize he was being bullied. Others claimed he was fully aware and played up the act for attention. But when it came time to leave Thornley, their differences were crystal clear. In the yearbook, while most students filled their graduation blurbs with thank yous and memories, Alek Minassian left his section completely blank. Before Minassian started college, his parents tried to provide him with extra support. His mother enrolled him at Helpmate, a community services agency in Richmond Hill that offered life skills counseling. There, he trained for a summer job at her workplace, Compugen, where he handled filing, photocopying, and shredding in the accounts payable department. Around the same time, his parents bought him his own computer. That machine became his world. He quickly became obsessed with Halo, the futuristic first-person shooter where super soldiers battle across galaxies. But it wasn't just gaming. Minassian had a natural talent for computers. He enrolled in the computer programming diploma program at Seneca College, just a short drive from home. He excelled in his courses, even landing a sought-after role as a research assistant at Seneca's Center for Development of Open Technology, a gig that could open doors to tech giants like Red Hat and Mozilla. To his classmates, Minassian came off as something of a quiet genius. He'd share detailed coding tutorials on the class blog to help others, and even built his own Android app to help users locate free parking spots. After 2 years, he transferred into Seneca's more competitive software development degree program. That's where Joseph Pham, a fellow student, got to know him during a course called Parallel Programming Fundamentals in early 2018. The class involved a group presentation, something that would have rattled most people with Minassian's social difficulties. But he surprised Pham. He was articulate, Pham recalled. He spoke slowly, but clearly. No cue cards. He knew his material.
Oh hi, good to see you there. I'm using these fantastic new glass phones from Just In Time Flowers Industries. They let me comfortably wear my sunglasses and headphones at the same time.
Whoa, those are some cool glasses you got there.
Yeah, thanks. I just got them. They're so convenient and easy to use.
How do they work?
You just turn them on, connect it to your phone, and start playing your music. It's so easy.
Whoa, that's so cool. Can I try?
Of course.
Still, there were signs of discomfort. Minassian never made eye contact, staring instead at the back wall, as if presenting to no one at all. He could handle the code, but the human connection remained out of reach. Due to his difficulty in understanding social situations, Minassian struggled in professional settings. He landed a job as a quality assurance developer at Too Good Financial Systems, an investment software firm in Richmond Hill, but after 6 months, he was let go. A co-op placement at Omers followed, but it ended without a full-time offer. Even with support from past teachers, educational assistants, and his parents, nothing ever seemed to click. He worked hard, lived quietly, and retreated further into the online spaces where he felt most comfortable. In the digital world, Minassian thrived, but in real life, he was lost. Then, in September 2017, he made a drastic decision. With just 1 semester left before finishing his degree, he dropped out of Seneca and enlisted in the Canadian Armed Forces. His parents had encouraged the move, hoping it would give him structure, purpose, maybe even a fresh start. Minassian passed all the entrance requirements and he reported for basic training in St. Jean-sur-Richelieu as recruit number C2324961. But from the very first week, it was clear he didn't belong. To his fellow recruits, he came across as shy and disconnected. His section leader, Andrew Summerfield, quickly noticed troubling signs. Minassian couldn't complete basic drills as he lacked the motor coordination for simple movements. During a routine stop drill, when recruits were supposed to swing their right legs in unison, Minassian stumbled. His physical tics, like touching his cheek, ear, then nose, were constant and distracting. He lagged behind in every exercise, seemingly unaware of the pressure to keep pace. He couldn't even pack his gear properly, often wandering the drill hall, confused and unsure of what he needed. More than anything, he seemed mentally absent, adrift in his own world. He kept to himself, rarely spoke more than a word or two, and never made eye contact, always staring at the floor. To Summerfield, it was baffling. How had someone so clearly unfit for the role made it past screening? He couldn't imagine Minassian ever qualifying for a civilian firearm license, so why was he holding a rifle in basic training and being molded as a soldier? Within days of arriving at basic training, Alek Minassian had become a problem, not just for himself, but for the entire platoon. Frustration bubbled beneath the surface as other recruits whispered behind his back, annoyed that his constant missteps were dragging the group down. While they bonded in the evenings, joking and venting in the barracks, Minassian stayed isolated in his bunk, fully aware he didn't belong. His section leader, Andrew Summerfield, tried to help. Each morning, Summerfield would rush to finish his own duties by 5 a.m., just to carve out time to assist Minassian before inspection. But it was a daily struggle. No matter how many times Summerfield showed him how to make hospital corners or fold his clothes correctly, Minassian got it wrong. His uniform was sloppy, his kit was out of order, and he never seemed to understand why it mattered. It seemed like he didn't grasp the seriousness of what was happening, Summerfield later recalled. The instructors had no patience. They barked orders at him, punished him with push-ups, one for every loose thread on his uniform, and sometimes made the entire platoon pay for his mistakes. As the pressure mounted, Summerfield went to creative lengths to keep Minassian afloat. He taught him how to shape his beret by soaking it in the shower and wearing it as it dried. It was like tricking a kid into doing something, he said. By the third week, Minassian came down with a case of strep throat, common enough in basic training that recruits joked it was part of the package. He was sent to the infirmary, but when he didn't return, an instructor told Summerfield to go find him. He found Minassian curled up in bed, quiet and withdrawn. "I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home," Minassian told Summerfield. Just 16 days in, Minassian asked to be discharged. When he finally left, the barracks were relieved. As Summerfield put it, it was in the back of our minds that giving this guy a firearm probably wouldn't go well. Not because he seemed violent or angry, but because he just didn't seem capable of learning how to use it at all. That winter, Minassian returned to Seneca College to finish his final semester in the software development program. In one class, the instructor led an icebreaker. 2 truths, 1 lie. When Minassian mentioned he'd been in the army but left during training, a curious classmate asked why. "Because I didn't get to use guns as much as I thought I would," Minassian answered sternly. He kept to his usual patterns, arriving early to class, always alone, and lingering awkwardly at the edges of social circles. He tried to make conversation by asking routine questions. "Where'd you do your co-op? How'd you do on that lab?" But his timing was often off. He'd interrupt others mid-conversation, or while they were cramming for tests, seemingly unaware of the social cues telling him not to. One student who worked with him on a group project recalled that Minassian insisted on shaking his hand every single time they met, no matter the setting. Another noticed his strange physical tics, blinking hard, squeezing his eyes shut when speaking to classmates or giving presentations. There were moments that hinted at deeper social disconnects. Once, in the back of a classroom, a group of male students were joking about women, taking turns announcing whether they preferred tits or ass. When it came to Minassian, he stared off blankly and just shrugged, offering no answer. But in a room full of aspiring programmers, where quirks were common and social awkwardness wasn't exactly rare, no one thought much of it. This was a world where eccentricity was almost expected, a place where many students, like Minassian, sought comfort in the logic and structure of code rather than the chaos of human interaction. In his final semester at Seneca, Alek Minassian threw himself into the job hunt with a kind of quiet determination. He showed up to college job fairs dressed for the part, collecting business cards, shaking hands, and applying to software roles at companies like Jonah Group, Everts, and Portable Intelligence. From the outside, it looked like he was on the right track. Minassian turned to his classmates for help, asking for interview tips, resume advice, and feedback over Slack. When one student agreed to look over his resume, Minassian showed up with several pages of exhaustive notes outlining his coursework and co-op experience. The classmate gently suggested he condense it. Minassian nodded and took the feedback seriously. It looked like he was doing everything right, trying to fit in, not just professionally, but socially too. He started mimicking the behavior of those around him. When a friendly student added him to a private Slack channel reserved for high-performing classmates, Minassian seemed to latch on. When that student complained about how instructors glossed over complicated material, Minassian echoed him almost word for word, growing increasingly animated. "Yeah, this is stupid. How are we supposed to learn this? This is complex stuff," he'd exclaim. He might have been mirroring me because he wanted to be friends. No wonder he liked me. I treated him like a human being, the classmate later reflected. But as the semester was coming to an end, and job offers failed to materialize, Minassian started to unravel. The reserved, awkward student began showing flashes of something darker. In mid-March of 2018, tensions boiled over during class. A loud argument erupted between Minassian and another student in the back of the room. Minassian shouted several expletives before storming out. His classmates exchanged confused looks afterward. No one knew what had triggered it. Then, on the morning of April 19th, Minassian posted a message in the class Slack channel. Finally finished college. F you all and good riddance. At first, people laughed it off. Q. Good luck finding a job, one student replied, assuming it was just a weird, edgy joke. But when a few days passed and Minassian didn't respond, one classmate grew uneasy and messaged him privately. Hey, how's it going, man? There was no answer. Minassian never wrote back. The term incel was never meant to be sinister. It was coined in 1997 by a soft-spoken, lonely university student in Toronto, a woman known only by her first name, Alana. At the time, Alana was attending Carleton University and struggling to navigate the world of dating. She described herself as a late bloomer, plagued by insecurity and aching loneliness. But she had a hunch she couldn't be the only one feeling this way. In the early days of the internet, Alana created a bare-bones, text-only website called Alana's Involuntary Celibacy Project. It was meant to be a safe space, an online forum where people of any gender could talk openly about their difficulty forming romantic or sexual relationships. And in the beginning, it was just that. The conversations were awkward but supportive, occasionally even hopeful. One couple who met through the forum eventually got married. By the year 2000, Alana was moving away from the community, satisfied that it would continue without her. I didn't notice what was going on because I wasn't paying attention. My dating life was going okay. I didn't want to think about my history as a late bloomer, she told the BBC. Fast forward 15 years, Alana was in a bookshop reading a feminist magazine when she saw a small story about a man named Elliot Rodger.
Elliot Rodger here. I'm up in the hills in Montecito right now. It's truly a beautiful day. But, as I've always said, a beautiful environment is the darkest hell if you have to experience it all alone.
On the evening of May 23, 2014, Elliot Rodger, a 22-year-old man living in Isla Vista, California, posted a 141-page manifesto titled, My Twisted World. Minutes later, he uploaded a chilling video to YouTube. In the video, he can be seen sitting in the driver's seat of his BMW, speaking into the camera with eerie calm.
I've been doing a lot of thinking about how sad and unfair my life has been. All because girls haven't been attracted to me. I've had to rot in bleak and sad loneliness. I mean, you give a chance to all these stupid, obnoxious guys that I see you walking with, but you don't give a chance to me. Why not? I'm such a magnificent guy. I'm beautiful. You can't deny that. I'm civilized, intelligent, sophisticated. I have a sense of style. And yet you girls don't see it. It's not fair. I deserve them more. I don't understand you girls. It's like your sexual attraction is flawed. It's perverted. This world, it's so twisted. Hey, Elliot Rodger here. I'm just sitting in my car right now, enjoying the view of the beach. And my view has been ruined by this sight right here. In front of me, sitting right there on that bench, is a young couple. I was enjoying such a nice view until they came and sat down and started kissing. This is the reason why life isn't fair. Why can't I experience something like that? I have to show everyone why I hate the world. Because no girl would do this with me. I hate them. I hate them so much. It's not fair. Life is not fair. Hi, Elliot Rodger here. Well, this is my last video. It all has to come to this. Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity. Against all of you. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. And it has been very torturous. It's not fair. You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy, and yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men, instead of me, the supreme gentleman. I will punish all of you for it. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male. Yes. Well, now I will be a god compared to you. You will all be animals. You denied me a happy life. And in turn, I will deny all of you life. It's only fair. I hate all of you. I've waited a long time for this. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. Utter annihilation.
Shortly after uploading his now infamous video to YouTube, Elliot Rodger put his words into horrifying action. He stabbed his 2 roommates and a visitor in their apartment, gunned down 2 women outside a sorority house, killed another man at a nearby deli, then ended his own life while still seated behind the wheel of the BMW he filmed his final message in. That rampage didn't just make headlines, it lit a fuse. Rodger's attack transformed him into a twisted icon for a dark corner of the internet. Some people began to revere him, not as a murderer, but as a martyr. They called him a hero, a saint, some even nicknaming him the Supreme Gentleman. The movement Alana once created as a haven for the lonely had been hijacked by rage, warped beyond recognition. The word she had coined would never be innocent again. Over time, the incel community became more male-dominated. Frustration simmered. Empathy eroded. By 2017, Reddit's incel forum had grown to 40,000 active members. Dozens of spin-off groups emerged, each one more toxic than the last. In these forums, users didn't just vent, they celebrated violence. They fantasized about domination and revenge. And when Rodger's name came up, it was with admiration. No one knows for sure when Alek Minassian first wandered into that world, but at some point, he reportedly began frequenting a 4chan forum where self-described incels discuss abhorrent subjects like the merits of incest and how to sell women as slaves. Within these spaces, reality is distorted beyond repair. Chads, the confident good-looking men, are despised as mindless alphas who get all the women. Stacys, the attractive popular women, are seen as shallow objects of both desire and hatred. Their entire worldview hinges on resentment. Fortunately, in recent years, forums that promote it have been banned from sites like Reddit. But the movement is like a hydra, cut off one head, and 2 more take its place. Minassian had found his way into one of those heads, and soon, the world would learn his name. In early April 2018, Alek Minassian picked up the phone and called Ryder Truck Rental. The location was conveniently situated between his family home on Elmsley Drive and Seneca's York campus, where he was wrapping up his final semester. He spoke plainly, telling the man on the other end that he'd soon be moving and needed a van to haul his furniture. Nothing about the call raised alarms. He read off his credit card number to secure the $400 deposit and hung up. 2 weeks later, on April 23rd at 12:30 p.m., Minassian walked through the doors of the Ryder office. He was dressed in black pants, a hoodie, and a royal blue t-shirt, clothes that clung awkwardly to his frame. His hair had been buzzed down unevenly, with jagged bald patches scattered across his scalp, as if he'd cut it himself in a hurry or out of frustration. He handed his driver's license to the attendant and repeated his story. "I'm moving and need the van to haul my furniture." The clerk ran the standard background check and it came back clean. Nothing flagged, nothing out of place. Minassian took the keys and stepped into the parking lot. He climbed into the white rental van and turned the ignition, but then, suddenly, jumped back out. He bolted across the lot toward the street, scanning his surroundings like he'd forgotten something or was searching for someone. A Ryder sales rep standing nearby watched in confusion. Then she saw him stop, turn around, and walk slowly back to the running vehicle. "Do you need help?" she asked as he approached. "I have a weird question," he replied. "I'm used to newer cars. Can you show me how to put it in drive?" She climbed into the driver's seat and showed him how to use the gear shift. She noticed his hands were trembling as he watched. He looked like he was on edge, like someone rehearsing a scene he wasn't sure he could pull off. Minassian sat idle in the Ryder parking lot for nearly 20 minutes, and at some point during that time, he pulled out his phone and posted a short manifesto to his Facebook profile. Private, recruit, Minassian Infantry 00010, wishing to speak to Sergeant 4chan please. C232496161, the incel rebellion has already begun. We will overthrow all the Chads and Stacys. All hail the supreme gentleman Elliot Rodger. Then the gate slid open. Inside the office, Ryder employees chuckled. They were still talking about the awkward kid who didn't know how to put the van into drive. None of them could have imagined what was about to unfold. Minassian pulled out of the Ryder lot and made his way toward Yonge Street. Just south of Finch, he veered onto the sidewalk. The first victims never saw it coming. Two women, Ji-hun Kim and So-hee Chung, were struck and killed instantly. He didn't slow down. If anything, he picked up speed. The van tore down the west sidewalk, reaching speeds between 39 and 47 kilometers per hour. He smashed through bus shelters, sending shards of glass and people scattering. Minassian kept going. Near Tolman Street, he hit Geraldine Brady, where she died on the scene. Moments later, Chul Min Kam was struck from behind and dragged under the van. He didn't survive. Then Robert Anderson, hit with such force he was launched into the air, landing headfirst. His skull was fractured from the impact. Minassian also killed Mary Elizabeth Forsyth, a 94-year-old woman who was walking along Yonge Street using a walker. As the rampage continued, cars were honking to warn pedestrians to get out of Minassian's way. At Yonge and Parkview Avenue, Minassian ran over Munir Najjar. He flew 2 meters into the air and died upon impact. At the intersection of Yonge Street and Park Home Avenue, Minassian plowed into a crowd of 6. He struck Anna Marie D'Amico and Renuka Amarsinga from behind. D'Amico later died in hospital. Seconds later, Beverly Smith was run over. Her injuries were catastrophic, her internal organs exposed, both legs amputated above the knee. Minassian then made his way outside Mel Lastman Square, where he struck Dorothy Sewell from behind. Her body was thrown onto the hood of the van before she fell beneath it. She died shortly after. Andrea Braddon, who had just left a nearby Starbucks with a friend, was also hit from behind, the drink in her hand splashing across the van's windshield. She collided with Amarsinga, who had still been trapped beneath the vehicle, dragged for over 150 meters. Both women died. In total, the van traveled 2.57 kilometers. For 1.2 of those, Minassian drove on the sidewalk. Eventually, he turned onto Points Avenue, where he brought the van to a stop. He stepped out, stood in the middle of the street, and raised his hands, holding his phone out like a gun. Constable Ken Lamb arrived seconds later. He exited his cruiser with his weapon drawn, his aim steady. "Kill me, shoot me in the head," Minassian shouted. Lamb didn't flinch. The tense scene was captured on camera from multiple angles.
He's on the Beecroft, this is south of Shepherd. Okay.
Seven minutes after the first 911 call, it was finally over. Minassian was in handcuffs. Roughly 9 hours after his arrest, Alek Minassian was led into a police interview room in 32 Division headquarters. The camera recorded everything. Stripped of his clothing and wearing only his underwear and a white police-issue coverall, Minassian was told he legally did not have to answer questions. Before anything else, Minassian was brought to a private room to speak with a lawyer. He placed the call and listened quietly. The advice was simple: don't answer any questions. But when he returned to the interview room, he didn't remain silent for long. Detective Robert Thomas sat across from him. A seasoned investigator and forensic polygraph examiner, Thomas didn't rush the interrogation. He was incredibly patient. As minutes passed, he drew Minassian into conversation, not with pressure, but with calm persistence. Minassian sat calmly in the corner chair, his movements minimal. He shifted his weight occasionally, crossed or uncrossed his legs, sometimes stretching them out in front of him. His speech was flat and controlled. There was no trace of emotion in his voice. Even as he described the attack, the tone didn't change. Killing, he explained, was to convert the life status of certain individuals to death status. He chose his words with clinical precision, almost like a robot. The interview began at 10:46 p.m. At first, Minassian deflected most questions. He declined to answer at least 20 of them off rip, but gradually, he began to open up. He spoke about his life, his place in the world, the day of the attack, and then the ideology that had shaped him. He explained the incel worldview in matter-of-fact terms, how people are sorted into categories. There's betas, chads, Stacys, and normies. To Detective Robert Thomas, it was his first clear glimpse into the mind behind the van.
Celibacy means someone who never has sexual intercourse.
Right.
Involuntary celibacy means this wasn't your choice. You essentially have been thrown into true forced loneliness and you're unable to lose your virginity.
Right.
This is especially painful for young males.
I forgot. When did you first go on to 4chan?
2014.
2014. And specifically when in 2014?
May 23, 2014.
And how were you able to remember that?
Because I remember that was a very significant day.
Okay. What was that?
That was when Elliot Rodger decided to essentially commit an uprising, a beta uprising, if you will,
right,
against the Chads and the Stacys.
It was Elliot Rodger who was the father.
Basically, the founding forefather of the entire movement.
Right, right. So explain to me this movement. What's this movement about?
It's basically a movement of angry incels, such as myself, who are unable to get laid. Therefore, we want to overthrow the Chads, which would force the Stacys to be forced to reproduce with the incels.
Right, right. Okay. When you say incels,
involuntary celibate.
Celibate. So that's just a short form for fellas who
can't get laid.
Can't have sex. Right. Okay. Who would the targets for this uprising be?
All of the alpha males.
All the alpha males. So the Chads.
Yes.
So those are the people that you want to kill.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And who else?
Any of the Stacys who do not wish to give their love and affection to the incels.
So they're a target as well.
Yes.
To be killed.
Yes.
Like, was there one particular moment in your life where it sort of struck home? This was a problem, or was it just a?
On Halloween of 2013, I was attending a house party, and I walked in and attempted to socialize with some girls. However, they all laughed at me and held the arms of the big guys instead.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of rude. And how did that make you feel?
I felt very angry.
Yeah.
That they would, because I considered myself a supreme gentleman. I was angry that they would give their love and affection to obnoxious brutes.
Really. And so it was at that particular moment, and that was sort of the defining moment that made you think that, this is wrong, and these people are are unfairly treating you in the way that they were.
Yes.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I appreciate you telling me that. Tell me what takes place.
So I booked the van.
Yep.
And then I just simply wait until today.
Yep.
And then I go rent the van, and then I drive it, take it downtown to Toronto.
Okay.
and I just start using it as a weapon.
Okay, all right. And so when you say that, what do you mean by that?
Meaning the vehicle collided with several pedestrians, some of who are no longer alive as a result.
Right, okay. Now, what are you thinking while you're in the van?
I'm thinking that this is it. This is the day of retribution.
Okay.
I floor the pedal,
yep.
I speed the van towards them, and I allow the van to collide with them.
Okay. And then what happens?
Some people get knocked out of the way, some people roll over the top of the van.
Okay. And then what happens?
I continue doing that until in fact, actually, to be honest, the only reason I stopped my attack was because someone's drink got splashed on my windshield, and I was worried that I would crash the van anyway, so I decided, okay, now I wanted to do more, but I've kind of been foiled by a lack of visibility. So then that's when I turned right, and I saw the cops approaching, so I decided to pull over and get out of my van.
Okay.
I see a patrol car pull over, and I hear the cops screaming at me to get out. So I get out, and I point my wallet at the cop with the intent for it to be confused with a gun, so that I could be fatally shot.
Okay. And was that something you were thinking about?
Yes.
What I'm saying is,
even beforehand, I premeditated as an attempted by cop.
You wanted to be killed by the police.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he didn't react,
right.
So then I ended up being ordered to the ground. So I knew at that point he's not going to shoot me. So I've lost. So I had no choice but to just get on the ground.
He later states that he connected directly with Elliot Rodger and Chris Harper Mercer online. Harper Mercer carried out a mass shooting at a community college in Roseburg, Oregon back in October 2015, killing 10 people, including himself, and injuring 8 more. Minassian said he first sent a private message to Rodger on Reddit after Minassian read one of his posts in January 2014. The two then engaged in a conversation, most of it through 4chan. Minassian said he last communicated with Rodger on May 20, 2014, 3 days before Rodger's attacks. It was later discovered this was all a lie.
And were these fellas active on 4chan?
Yes.
They were. Have you ever communicated with these fellas?
I actually have, as a matter of fact.
Who did you communicate with?
Both of them, actually.
Really?
We discussed our frustrations at society and being unable to get laid, and we were plotting a certain timed strikes on society in order to confuse and shake the foundations, just to put all the normies in a state of panic.
Who did you have conversation with first? Let me ask you that.
Elliot.
Elliot. So how did you learn of Elliot?
Because we private messaged each other on Reddit.
Yep.
After I saw one of his posts, and we just talked about each other, got to know each other, and we found each other very interesting. We both had the same frustrations at society,
right.
Despite being separated by distance so far apart.
Right. Did you ever visit him?
No, but I wish I could have.
Yeah. Did he ever come and visit you?
No, but I wish he did.
Yeah. When specifically did you first contact or have contact with Elliot?
January of 2014.
2014. And when did you stop having communication with him?
As soon as he was deceased.
Okay. So his act, I know, took place in 2014, but I wasn't aware of the exact day. What day was it?
May 23, 2014.
May 23rd. Yeah, you said that. So when did you last speak to him?
May 20.
May 20th. And so what did he tell you?
He told me that he has to go. He is on a very important mission, and he might not make it back alive.
And so what did you say to him?
I kind of had an idea in my head of what he was planning, but I didn't want to think it was true at the time. So I replied and said, I wish you good luck with that.
Right on. Okay. And
Yes.
And when did you learn that what he had done?
I saw it on the news later that night.
Later on the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you think?
I thought that I came to the understanding that this is the mission that he had to carry out.
Okay, all right. And anything else?
I felt kind of proud of him for his acts of bravery.
Okay, all right. And what about how you started to change your thinking? Was any of that going on?
I was starting to feel radicalized at that time.
You were, okay. And when you say radicalized, what do you mean by that?
Meaning I felt it was time to take action and not just sit on the sidelines and to just fester in my own sadness.
Right on.
As the interview was coming to an end, Thomas asked Minassian about his reaction to the deaths and injuries he caused and what he would tell the families of his victims if they came into the room. His answer was chilling.
I'm going to ask you this, because it's important. 10 people died here today. 15 people were seriously injured. I think it's important to ask how you feel about that.
I feel like I accomplished my mission.
You feel like you accomplished your mission?
Yes.
Okay. If the families of those people who were murdered and who were injured were in this room right now, what would you say to them?
I honestly don't know what I would say.
Would you apologize?
I honestly don't know.
After 4.5 hours of interrogation, Alek Minassian was let out of the room at 3:04 a.m. and subsequently charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder and 16 counts of attempted murder.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air now with breaking news. What appears to be a deadly incident in Toronto, Canada, unfolded around 1:30 Eastern Time.
At least 9 people are dead in Toronto after a van plowed into a number of pedestrians.
Canada's police call this one of the busiest streets in the entire country. And yesterday, a man in a rental van turned it into a killing field.
It took just 20 horrific minutes for a van speeding along a sidewalk to hit, injure, and kill many pedestrians in a crowded part of Toronto.
The van attack shocked the world. Across Canada, the reaction was immediate and emotional. Flags flew at half-mast. Candlelight vigils were held in Mill Lastman Square, steps from where many of the victims were struck. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mayor John Tory offered condolences to the victims and their families, praising first responders and highlighting the country's resilience in the face of tragedy. At the time of the attack, the Toronto Maple Leafs were in the middle of a playoff series against the Boston Bruins. Just hours after the tragedy, Game 6 was set to take place at Scotiabank Arena. Guarded by a much larger than normal police presence, fans held a moment of silence before puck dropped to honor the victims.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise if you're able to, and remove your hats.
While the carnage was horrifying, one of the enduring images from that day was that of Constable Ken Lamb confronting Minassian just minutes after the attack. Lamb's restraint, even as Minassian mimicked having a gun, was praised globally. The video of their interaction went viral and became a widely referenced example of effective de-escalation.
But the second part of the story that's amazing is how the police in Canada handled it. This is not how police in America would have handled it.
Alek Minassian's parents, Vahe and Sona, learned of the attack on the news the day it happened, just like everybody else. They hired criminal lawyer Leo Adler to represent the family. At his son's first court appearance, Vahe, looking utterly defeated, made his way through a mob of reporters shouting around his police escort.
We're crying in court, sir. Can you at least tell us what you're feeling right now, please?
2 months later, he sold the family house on Elmsley for $1.4 million and moved away with his wife. In the months since the attack, several victims have filed civil suits against Alek Minassian and Ryder Truck Rental. Amir Kumarsi, a chemistry professor at Ryerson, was one of the first people struck in the attack. The incident left him with a brain injury, spinal fractures, a pulmonary embolism, memory loss, vertigo, anxiety, and depression. He's asking for $6 million in aggravated and punitive damages, accusing both parties of negligence. Amarish Tesfamariam, a nurse, sustained a spinal cord injury and brain damage. She can no longer move her body below her neck or breathe without a machine, and she says her career is over. She's seeking $14 million. Catherine Riddell, who's suing for $3.6 million, suffered a brain injury, a collapsed lung and fractures in her spine, ribs, and pelvis. And the family of Anne-Marie D'Amico has filed a $1 million lawsuit intending to donate any money they receive to the Anne-Marie D'Amico Foundation, which supports women who are victims of violence. Ryder refused to comment directly on the cases, but denied responsibility in a statement to Toronto Life. All of us at Ryder remain deeply saddened by the loss of life and injuries resulting from the senseless and unforeseeable act. Mr. Minassian's attack was his own premeditated and intentional act, using a properly rented Ryder vehicle as the instrument. Minassian, on the other hand, responded to the lawsuits with silence. Trial was set to begin in February of 2020, but difficulties getting Minassian's psychological and medical records pushed it back to April. Then the pandemic hit, further pushing the trial back, this time to November. When the trial finally began on November 10th, Minassian entered a plea of not criminally responsible, claiming that his autism spectrum disorder left him unable to understand that what he did was wrong. 4 months later, on March 3, 2021, the verdict was handed down. Justice and Malloy found him guilty on all 26 charges related to the deadly van attack. Delivering her ruling in a live-streamed broadcast, an unusual move for Canadian courts, Justice Malloy made a deliberate choice to refer to Minassian as John Doe, saying she would not give him the notoriety he had sought. He freely chose the option that was morally wrong, she said. Lack of empathy, even an inability to empathize, does not excuse what he did. He knew it was wrong. Her message was clear. Minassian's actions were deliberate, and he would be held fully accountable. On June 13, 2022, Alek Minassian was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. The 10 victims killed in the van attack ranged in age from 22 to 94. 8 of them were women. While the city mourned, darker corners of the internet celebrated. On incel forums, Minassian was hailed as a hero. They debated how many celebratory beers should be downed per woman who died. They even gave him a name, Sir Alek. One user on incels.me even changed his profile photo to Minassian's and captioned it, "The incel revolution has begun." Disturbingly, Minassian's attack inspired others. One of them was a 17-year-old 9th grade dropout from Toronto. On February 24, 2020, the teen walked into a massage parlor located just across the street from his home. He was armed with a 17-inch machete, engraved with the words, "Thought Slayer." Inside, he launched a brutal attack, killing receptionist Ashley Arzega with at least 42 stab wounds, 15 of them defensive injuries. The spa owner, who witnessed the attack, fought back. During the struggle, the teen repeatedly yelled "die" while calling her a stupid. She managed to wrestle the machete away and stab him in return, critically wounding him. Bloodied and injured, she ran to a nearby business to get help. When police arrived, they found the teenager with a handwritten note that read, "Long live the incel rebellion." In his statement to officers, he said, "I wanted everyone to find it. I wanted the world to know that people like us exist and it's not really fair." He would later refer both Alek Minassian and Elliot Rodger as saints and heroes. On September 14, 2022, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and attempted murder. During sentencing, the court declared the attack an act of terrorism, the first time in Canada that incel violence was legally recognized as terrorism. On November 28, 2023, the disturbed teen was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for 10 years, plus a concurrent 3-year sentence for attempted murder. The Toronto van attack serves as a stark reminder of the profound impact that online communities can have on real-world actions. The victims of both the van and spa attack were individuals who, in an instant, had their lives tragically taken from them while going about their daily routines. As we move forward, we must continue to confront the dark corners of the internet that breed violence and hatred, and ensure that no more lives are lost to senseless acts of violence. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay informed and stay aware.